to the Brewery Fresh Carlton Draft, the #1 tap there in Australia. Sam Kekovich, our very, very, very special guest.
Feels right to have you at the desk with us, sir. And can I just...
I've got to say, I feel quite comfortable here. I don't know if management's watching, but a couple of you'd feel fairly uneasy on it.
Any time I'm away. Yeah, can I ask you this? We saw highlights, but let's go back to the beginning. Was it always going to be North Melbourne? How did you end up at North?
Just quickly, I'm a great story in that regard because I was going to Carlton. My brother had gone to Carlton the year before, and I was automatically going to Carlton. I'd been signed to Carlton. But overnight, a wonderful initiative got introduced by the VFL called zoning. And the worst performed VFL side acquired the best performed country zone, which was in those days the Ovens of Murray, of which I played for Myrtleford. So all of a sudden, instead of finding my way to Princes Park, where I would have ruck roved to John Nichols, probably would have won about 4 Brownlows and 8 Premierships, I found my way to Arden Street, which was bereft of any trinkets in the
you were doing
showcase.
all the heavy lifting over there, weren't you?
Well, I kept them alive for 10 years, but anyhow, apart from that...
You know what I love, Sam? Sam, you talk about zoning. I miss the old days as a Carlton supporter. I miss the old days of zoning because Carlton zone was Carlton, Bendigo, and then we had South Australia and Western Australia. So I really like those days.
And then you had the ANZ Bank, the and all the other...
Tigers had Mildura. I remember we had a lot of very good talent.
They were all good. But that was interesting, sir. But look, can I honestly say that I've had no regrets. North Melbourne was a wonderful journey and a wonderful story. Some great friends. And to be able to be involved with guys like Mantello, Aylett, Ron Joseph, Cheatley, a host, and some wonderful, wonderful players. You all know the superstar, but you don't know guys like Ross Henshaw, Frankie Gumbleton, Kenny Montgomery. You all know, but we don't often talk about that.
Good point.
But they were superstar players in their own right. We all know the Cables, the Wades, the Rantells, the Kekoviches, but you don't know the very backbone of the side.
Sam, you're only on the show because they all pulled out, don't you?
You talk about getting to North when they were, they were bereft as opposed to the other mob you could have gone to. Well, it was about to change, wasn't it? And the 10-year rule, kind of like the first real sniff of free agency came in, and in '74 you got close. You were in the end poleaxed by Richmond.
Tigers.
Well, they took you apart in the grand final, but great things weren't too far away.
You had a quiet one, didn't you?
I did have a quiet one, yes.
Yeah.
And Ronald Dale,
much to my chagrin.
Yes.
He's working his way through the group here, and he's working his way up to something, I reckon. What was he like post-game here, Ron Barassi? What was he like?
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever been involved in something of this magnitude, a loss of this magnitude. But if you lose a grand final in Melbourne, let me tell you, it's the longest 6 months in your life. But the night of a revelry, or so-called revelry, that took place at the Southern Cross that very night, which is when players relax, have a beer, and, you know, you're acknowledged for having a fairly good year. We just fell short. But, hey, things are going to get better. No, no, no. He tipped a tirade of invective and unbridled abuse that you would just... And if there was any HR there, let me tell you, we all would have sued him. But we were like obsequious sycophants. They're just arse lickers, as you know. And we just sat there like meerkats.
Never look at me when you say that again.
No, I didn't. And we just sat there like meek and mole cats and just absorbed it.
Okay.
And he was so right, you know, and he was relentless.
He's a frightening man.
He's relentless. Oh, he's the most terrifying individual I've ever met, and the greatest coach. And you would never pick him. He's just got that sixth sense. When he walks into a room or says something, people just gravitate to him, and you feel that little chill down your spine. You know what it's like when you... sort of just give you a little flick.
We know what you mean.
But it was.
Andy's jumper's giving me that sense right now.
But you all know, you know, who would have thought St Kilda in '66 or that, you know, or when they lost the grand final, that redemption would be 20 years later, or 30, 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
We were so lucky that redemption was swift in 75, where he acknowledged and, you know, things were all...
Yep.
Well, you talked about Barras and the massive spray that he gave you after '74. It's great that that's anecdotal validation, but we've actually got I just threw that in for you, Sam. But we've actually got the idea that you'd have on film Ron Barassi in the early '80s up at the SCG, just to actually proving how fiery he was.
Hello, Haley off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weak as piss.
Be tame, wouldn't it, Sam?
Well, see, he's mellowed by then. You know.
So,
plus, that phone was Optus, I think. It was an Optus line.
Imagine if it was a wrong number. You'd be...
So you talk about the spray you get after '74. It led to the redemption that you talked about in '75. You got over the top of Hawthorn, the club's first ever premiership. You were magnificent. You were barnstorming. You set the foundation early. You kicked the goal. You had 22, 23, 24 touches. You were a force of nature yourself that day, and there was something about this North Melbourne team that just wasn't going to be denied that year, wasn't there, Sam?
No, there was. We had this manic obsession that, you know, we weren't going to go through it again. And the irony of it all is we could always get over Hawthorn, but we struggled against Richmond, ironically enough.
Yep.
Because Barras was always of the opinion that we could always match Hawthorn's physicality, and our superior skill would win out at some stage of the game. But the Tigers, though, were always thereabouts, up and about.
Here's a great shot. You and Don Scott, after the game, exchanging jumpers. That's a touching sight. It doesn't happen off anymore, but that you just by the by. And as you said, fierce competitor. Off the field, but a good friend. On the field, but a good friend off it.
Yeah, my word.
And you took that jumper home?
I did. I haven't had a look for a while. Come on, get to your treachery, go.
No.
I know this is going to lead me down to it.
No.
No treachery. You've never seen that jumper again, Sam?
Well, no, I haven't not had it.
I wanted to...
Well, he tells it. No, I'll tell the story again.
Well, would you like to?
I don't mind.
Well, do you want to do it?
Well, you think it's a treasured bit of memorabilia, and I do, and I respect Don Scott immensely. But, you know, I've had a fairly extensive wardrobe with a lot of European numbers in there. Now, why would I keep a shitty Hawthorn jumper in there? In all due respect. So, honestly, Don said, you know, I've still got the Sam Kekovich's North Melbourne jumper. I thought he would have kept mine. And he just happened to walk down Toorak Road and he saw a nice lady dressed in it, wearing it down Toorak. How embarrassing is that?
Well,
so I must have given it to a charity somewhere.
Yeah, of course. It's got there.
Can I?
Who else?
No, it's of course.
Can I ask you this? Can I ask you the 1975 Premiership, which we've just talked about? History. First ever, the club's first ever Premiership. The team photo is taken next day, Sam, and here it is. If we have a look at it here, it's a magnificent moment in the history of the club. If we look closely, absent Sam Kekovich down there. Now, I've got two questions for you, Sam. Where were you? And why did the club decide to have the Premiership photo the next day after a grand final? That seems
what were
weird.
they thinking?
You're breaking up, but...
What happened?
Clear error in judgment. Let me tell you, sometimes you make good choices, bad choices. I, unfortunately, made a very bad choice. And I must confess to this day, the regret that I have more than anything is missing North Melbourne's most treasured piece of memorabilia. Because if anyone's been in the North Melbourne Social Club in the 70s, emblazoned on the wall of our dining room, well, do you remember?
A mural.
The words of the prophetic hot gospeler Alan Killigrew. The 20 players that bring home North Melbourne's first ever premiership will gain football immortality.
Right.
Which meant nothing to me when I arrived at North Melbourne. Because that's how far away it was.
Yes.
So when we actually got there, and now it means a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, gee, missing that photo...
Well, I'll tell you what we've done. Because of modern technology.
Your benevolence and altruism actually confounds me.
We've done this for you, Sam. Modern technology allows you to Photoshop someone these days into a photo as if they were there. We've done it. See if you can even... It's seamless. See if you can pick the join as we put you into the photo. Now...
Finally.
I mean, you wouldn't know.
Oh, that's amazing.
We'd like to give you that.
Here it is, Sam. That's for you, sir. That's for you. That's for you. You're finally in the photo, Sam.
It's like the old Herald Sun spot the ball competition, isn't it?